that is sacrosanct, something that holds so much reverence and awe that it has the ability to govern every member of the family. And because of that, it reveals the truth about a family better than almost anything else. I am speaking, of course, about the calendar on the refrigerator. Some of you, I'm sure, are very organized people. Little color-coded markers and stickers, reminders, the whole thing practically canonized. And then some of us, well, let's just say thank goodness I can keep everything on my phone. But regardless, we all need to keep track of the things in our lives. Practices, appointments, birthdays, oil changes, errands, family dinners. All these things, of course, good and necessary things. But truth be told, that calendar is not just a schedule. It reveals what we fear, what we serve, what we protect, and what we think we cannot possibly miss. And of course, life is busy. Parents need to work. Meals need to be made, or the kids will start protesting in the front yard. A Christian life is not lived in stained glass alone. It is lived in minivans, kitchens, school hallways, and grocery store lines. But eventually, we all need to ask the question lying just below the surface. Am I merely managing my life, or am I receiving it? Am I arranging my own little kingdom, or am I listening for the voice of the King? And that's why the gospel today sounds so severe. Jesus says, "Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever does not take up his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me." Now this comes in Matthew's gospel as Jesus is sending the 12 out on mission. He's preparing them for a life that will cost them something. And moreover, in the ancient world, family was not just emotional support. Your family was your identity, your reputation, and your very survival. So when Jesus tells us that love for him must come before even father, mother, son, and daughter, he is striking at the deepest loyalties of the human heart. But do not be mistaken. He's not commanding coldness, nor is he telling us to love our families less. In fact, it's just the opposite. He is telling us that unless we love God first, we will eventually love everyone else poorly. And St. Paul says similar things, just from a different angle from our second reading. He says we're baptized into Christ Jesus, baptized into his death, buried with him, so that we might live in newness of life. He speaks of death and life, burial and resurrection. The old life goes down into the waters, a new creature rises on the other side. And all of it means that we cannot ask, where can I fit God into my plans? The question we must ask is, what kind of life is Christ calling forth from me? Yet the truth of the matter is we live in a world that teaches us to think of life as self-invention. Build your brand. Keep your options open. Avoid commitment until it benefits you. Treat your body, raw material, family as emotional convenience, religion as a private comfort, and freedom is the ability to do whatever you want, whenever you want, with whomever you want. It sounds nice until it's not. Because a life that keeps every door open never actually walks through one. And this disease does not stay out there in the world. It finds its way into our homes. Parents spend 18 years preparing a child for college, sports, scholarships, careers, success, while never actually thinking to ask the question, what will make them holy? Young people can spend more energy discerning a college major or their next vacation than discerning the will of God. We are all left then with no serious language for mission except be nice. And then we wonder why the voice of God seems faint. It's not always because God is silent. Sometimes it's because we have trained ourselves to hear everything else first. So what's the answer? Well, it's not better scheduling or finding the right balance. The answer is vocation, the baptized life that takes on flesh. See, when Jesus says, whoever does not take up his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me, he is not asking for vague religiosity. He is describing the shape of discipleship. To be worthy of Christ is to let his love become the first love, the ordering love, the love by which every other love is purified. And when St. Paul says we are buried with Christ in baptism, so that we might live in newness of life, he is telling us that our lives no longer belong to the old pattern of fear, comfort, and control. We have been claimed. We have been buried and raised. And we have been given a road to walk. Vocation is not God stealing our life from us, but is God giving our life back to us with its true meaning. Marriage becomes holy when husband and wife take up the cross of faithful, fruitful, forgiving love. Priesthood becomes holy when a man lays down his life so that Christ may teach, forgive, and shepherd through him. Consecrated life becomes holy when a soul becomes a living sign that Christ is enough and that heaven is real. And the single life becomes holy when it is not a waiting room for something else, but a generous gift poured out in mission. And all of this together is why the end of the gospel matters. Jesus speaks of receiving the prophet, the righteous man, the little one, even giving a cup of cold water in his name. Because a life surrendered to Christ does not become limited. It becomes expanded and available, and radically so. Available to God, available to the church, available to the poor, the lonely, the young, the old, the wounded, the stranger at the door. A faithful father, a prayerful mother, joyful priest, a radiant sister, an elderly couple still holding hands after decades of sacrifice. These are sermons in silence. These things preach to the world. Because they say that this is what baptism looks like when it grows up, what the cross looks like when it becomes love. This is what happens when Christ is first. So go home today and look at your calendar. Really look at it. Not with shame and hopefully not with panic. But look at it with the eyes of beloved sons and daughters of the Father. And ask yourself, where in all of this busyness am I listening for the Lord? Where am I avoiding him? What am I afraid he will ask of me? Moreover, our parents should ask their children about vocation, but not in a weird or heavy-handed kind of way, like cornering them in a car and saying, so have you considered wearing black the rest of your life? But speak naturally and often about holiness, about marriage, priesthood, and religious life, about sacrifice, mission, and the joy of belonging to God. And of course it means that our young people shouldn't ask what will make them successful, but what will make them saints. In the end, the refrigerator calendar may still be a mess. There will still be practices and errands and chaos. But beneath all of it, there is a call. At the center of it all, there can be Christ if we let him. Because at the end of the day, God's not asking to schedule an appointment on your calendar. He's asking for you.